Good evening and welcome to All for United on what is another busy week for United. Weekend, midweek, there's just games coming thick and fast. So we've got a bumper panel tonight. 3 more guests to chew the fat of the United week. Daz, how are we doing?
I'm good. Yeah. I've enjoyed the last 24 hours a little bit more for obvious reasons, but yeah, good.
Good. Matt Morgan, how are you, buddy? Not seen you for a while. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm all right. It's been a while. Nice to see you hosting as well. First time on the show with you hosting, so yeah, well done on the previous shows. But yeah, no, really good and exciting times. Really, obviously with obviously the new manager coming in. So yeah, fingers crossed. It's a good week ahead and hopefully a good show.
Yeah, definitely. Fingers crossed. Ben, how's it going? Hope you're well.
Good, yeah. Similar to Daz, a bit more upbeat this week compared to previous weeks. So yeah, it's going well.
Nice to have a little bit of optimism in it, like new manager coming in. It's nice to have a little bit of a buzz. So yeah, I mean, Europa League's back. You know, we're getting to the must-win sort of stage now. Matt, how have you seen the Europa League so far? The 3 games in, what have you made of it?
Quite underwhelming, probably. It's probably the best way to describe it. I think we've drawn every single game, have we, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think we just need to find a way of unlocking our way of winning in Europe, because we seem to be quite stuck at the moment, particularly in Europe, to try and find a way of winning games. Hopefully that'll change under the new manager, and hopefully it'll start tomorrow before obviously Amorim obviously comes in. But yeah, it's just finding a way of winning games at the moment, but they do need to start winning, because literally games are running out and they will be out at the group stage if they're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, like Matt says, Daz, do you see tomorrow as a must-win game after the first 3 draws? Do you think tomorrow is a must-win? Daz? Daz?
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm trying to. I mean, in my head, yeah, every game, because of how many points we've left on the table, both in the league and in Europa League, every game's a must-win. You know, just because we've dropped too many points as it is. We are still. I know we're not in the automatic, promotion sort of. We're in the middle bracket, but it is still a qualification. I think.
Yeah.
Porto, despite what rival fans will tell us, is not necessarily an easy game. Going to Turkey is not necessarily an easy game, but we've come away with a point in every game. I know it feels like it's not enough, because we did look the better team in every single game, and it's our own doing that we've not took away 3 points. But I think tomorrow night it'll be a slightly easier game than what we've had, not disrespecting the Greek champions. And I think it will start some momentum.
Yeah, I think that's what we need, and I think, like Daz and Matt have both said, Ben, we need to start winning games, don't we? How do we prioritise though? We've got Leicester on Sunday. Do you see him making a few changes with the lineup? Do you see him going strong tomorrow because it is a must-win? How do you see him going?
To be honest, I think Rude's probably seeing this as a bit of an audition for either staying on at United or getting a first team spot somewhere else. So I think he's going to go strong again, and I think he will at the weekend. He's not going to be overly worried if anyone picks up a knock tomorrow night. And the games haven't really flattered us so far. Obviously, the 2 1-1s, just drab, boring games against teams that we should be beating. And then obviously the one perched in the middle was just a madness of a game, really, which I think all of these games we need to kind of erase and just start from this point now. If we put together a few wins now, we're going to be in a comfortable position. And the majority of teams we should be beating in this competition, regardless of form, regardless of injuries, we should be able to beat the majority of the teams in this competition.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think we've probably got rid of the harder fixture, haven't we, Matt? We've got PAOK tomorrow, Salonika, whatever you want to call them. Then we've got Bodo Glimt, Victoria Pilsen before Christmas. So that's 3 very winnable games. Do you see us winning all 3 of those games to put us in a good position in the Europa League for the automatic qualification to the next round?
Yeah, I think we need to win. Like you say, the hardest games you'd probably say on paper are out of the way now. They've had to play. So I think the next 3, they need to really be winning. If you look at the quality of the opposition, no disrespect to the teams, obviously, on the day, you never know what can happen. But looking at the quality of the teams on paper, you've got to say you've got to fancy our chances to get 9 points from those 3 games, which should obviously bump us right up the standings. So yeah, on paper you think so. Hopefully, also with all the new management coming in and things like that, hopefully we'll start seeing a bit of an improvement now. But yeah, they just need to get winning games in the Europa League, because we'll find ourselves out quicker than we think if we don't.
Yeah, I saw I've been seeing sort of rumours today that apparently Harry Amas he's penciled in for some minutes tomorrow. Would you be starting Harry Amas tomorrow against what is a slightly weaker team? Do you think it's a good time to put Harry Amas in?
Yeah, I'm quite happy with where we are at the minute. You know, we're sort of in a grey area, aren't we, as a club? Because obviously we've got an interim manager. We know he's not going to be permanent. We know we're going to have to wait at least until after tomorrow before we even see the manager around Old Trafford and Carrington. But I'm quite happy with what we've seen. I mean, I don't want to disrespect Eric Ten Hag now he's gone, but even this would have been a winnable game for him. You know, so I'm quite confident that with that slight lift in morale, that we could use this game to maybe do what we did against Leicester. You know, just put a few goals away and just get some confidence to go back into then the next game, which I think is Leicester again, and just build some momentum. So then when the new manager comes in, we've got a decent foundation. We know there's work to be done.
Yeah, I think I agree 100%. Lenny Yoro, Ben, is back in training. Do you throw him straight in, or does he go on the bench? Does he wait for Sunday? What would you do with him? Would you kind of wrap him in cotton wool a little bit?
Yeah, I think we have to, given that he's never played a competitive minute and also is a young lad. I just think we've got plenty of time to kind of breed him into the team, which kind of filter that in. I think he's actually going to play quite a big part under Amarin. He'll rely on him quite a bit on the outside channel. So we do need to get him in the team at some point over the next month or so. But I think it's just probably maybe 30 minutes at the weekend, ramp that up to a half, then start him, just get him in that way. And I think Harry Amas as well, he should be given a chance. I think that's the one area in the squad where left back, we've had the issues with Luke Shaw, we've had the issues with Malacia. I'm kind of over both of them now. And I like Harry Amas. I think he's obviously got flaws in his game, but very adventurous. And I think in that system, why not chuck him in?
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Matt? Where do you see Harry Amas? As I say, the press are saying he's penciled in for a few minutes tomorrow. Do you see that as a starting thing? Do you see maybe the last sort of 20 minutes, see how the game's going? What would you do with Harry Amas?
Yeah, personally, in fairness, we said weeks and weeks ago that he should have been given a chance in the first team. Obviously, with Shaw and Malacia being out as long as they have, obviously Ten Hag clearly for some, although he wasn't willing to put him in the team at all after him having a pretty impressive pre-season. But to be honest, with Shaw and Malacia still, we don't want to be back in the first team. I don't see why we shouldn't put him in the team starting, really. Obviously, Mazraoui and Dalot have done well at fullback, but I think it's come now. He deserves his chance, and probably tomorrow is probably a perfect game and opposition to put him in and see what he can do, really. But yeah, for me, I'd start him, give him a chance, but what will Rudel decide to do remains to be seen.
Do you think that is, Daz? Because obviously Rude's only got a couple of games left. Do you think him using people like Amas, do you think that's kind of just giving him a chance, because it is a little bit of a free hit for Rude at the moment? He's kind of giving him a chance, maybe putting him in the window for Amarim to see. Just so, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd play in these next 2 games, because I genuinely think they're winnable games. Even a poor form Man United, these 2 are 100% winnable games. I mean, we proved we can beat Leicester quite convincingly the other day. There is no reason why we shouldn't be using players like Amas and, maybe giving Fletcher's lad a run out, especially if we can Wouldn't necessarily start him because we don't look that stable as a team, and I don't think we've got the luxury of just saying, oh, we can drop him this week because one mistake and we seem to just concede 3-4 goals. But if we can put the game to bed quite early, off time, there's no reason why we can't bring a player like him on and just let's see what he can do. But I'm quite confused why they won't play him because if anything, it's sort of impossible not to play him given the injuries we've had and the lack of options in that area. Maybe they're seeing something on the training ground that obviously we're not aware of, and this is the reason why he's being overlooked. Maybe they just feel that he's not ready for that step up. I don't know, but I don't think there's any harm putting him in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's been crying out for it for ages, hasn't he, Amas? We've all seen that he's doing really well in the youth system, and we've been crying out for a left back for 2 years now. So how do we see the lineup here, Ben? Does he put in people like Xerxes? Does he give Xerxes a chance to maybe get a sort of confidence couple of goals? I don't know. How would you line it up?
I'm a bit at the crosshairs really with Xerxes at this point. I wouldn't mind seeing Xerxes up front with maybe a Hoyland in front of him, just to give him that bit of pace in behind, because we saw it the other day when he went through on goal. That is not his bread and butter, is not running towards goal. I think if we're going to say Xerxes, then that's the position he needs to be in. I'd definitely like to see Harry Amas, because I think, like I say, Amarin, he had Nuno Mendes at Sporting, which I think he brought through at like 17 years old. So he's not scared to chuck in a young player if it kind of fits into the system. And then, like you say, I think the rest of the team needs to be fairly strong, because I know it might be a throwaway game for Rude and he might look at it, right, I'll chuck in a few young lads, but we do need to get a result as well, because there's long term, at the end of the season, this is a competition we should be looking at winning. We're not in a great position in the league, obviously, to get back into Europe. So we need to be looking to win this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's that very fine balance, isn't it, Matt? The fact we've got Leicester on the weekend, numbers are probably a little bit short. Can we risk resting our big players to play Xerxes, to play? I'm not sure if Mason Mount's fit, but to mix it up that much.
I think, to be honest, I think he might just stick with a similar sort of team that he's been playing the last few games, because it has been working. Even against Chelsea, it wasn't a terrible performance. Obviously, we ended up drawing the game, but I think he has to go strong because they need to ultimately get the 3 points to try and progress in the competition. I think anything less than a win tomorrow, then you're sort of looking at thinking, are we actually going to get through this competition now? But no, I'd go strong. And in terms of Xerxes, I do agree with what Ben's saying. I wouldn't start him on his own up front. I think what we've seen from him in the previous games that he has been playing, he does seem to be struggling quite a little bit. Even just holding the ball just doesn't seem to want to stick to him at the moment. But having maybe Hoyland or someone up there with him just to support him would work perfectly, because he did show signs the other day when Hoyland and Xerxes were on the pitch at the same time. But for me, I'd go strong. But for me, I think Hoyland has to start tomorrow, personally. Yeah,
I think I agree. Give me your predictions then, Daz. We'll go with you first. Tomorrow's game. What's your prediction? It's a hard one to call, isn't it?
Oh, it's a tough one, because United's so sometimes when you think we're going to win, we lose, and we kind of. I'm going to stay positive because Rude hasn't given us a reason not to be. I think it'll be a high-scoring game, similar to what we've seen with the other lower teams that we've played this year, like Southampton. I'll probably go 3-0. I think that's more than capable, and I think they'll get them quite early and then just sit back into the game.
Okay, United keeping a clean sheet. I like that. Ben, what's your prediction? What are you saying?
I think we'll score a few, but I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I'll go for 4-1.
4-1, we like it. Matt, is it a full house?
Yeah, United win. My prediction actually was same as Daz. It was at 3-0. I fancy just
3-0
and get a few goals.
Yeah, I'm loving the clean sheet idea. Loving that. I can't remember the last time. So yeah, that's Europa League. Going to have a little look back on the Chelsea game now. What did you make of it, Daz? People are saying it was a boring performance. What did you make of it now the dust has settled?
We was in live last week, and I know you and Adam predicted that it'd be quite a high-scoring goal. Both teams would score goals, and I was the one that said I thought it would actually be a low-scoring goal. I think that it'd be like a game of chess. The game is what I expected for the reasons that I mentioned in the live last week. That because I think they prepared for a Man United team that had Eric Ten Hag in charge. And that sort of messed up their plans. I know Ruud hasn't played massively different, but you just never know what you're going to get with a new manager bounce, or what you're going to get the 3-4 games post second manager. And I think that left Chelsea a little bit wary, in my opinion, which didn't suit players like Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer's not a player that should be playing in a team that should be sat back waiting for the game to come to him. He's an aggressive player, and he needs to be in that Chelsea team that attacks us. So I think the team that Chelsea played and the way they played neutralised their best player themselves. I don't think we did anything to neutralise them. I just think that was just the way Chelsea set up. Look, it wasn't an entertaining game. It wasn't. It wasn't. There was some good bits in the game that I look at, and I think I'm actually quite happy with the way we did that. And I'm happy with the way that we didn't panic. We didn't panic, and we didn't rush to get in the game. And if you'd have said to me before the game a 1-1 draw, I mean, I predicted a 1-0 defeat. If you'd have said to me before the game a 1-1, I'd have took it, given the form, given the fact that we're in lieu with a manager. But yeah, it wasn't entertaining. It wasn't a motivating game. But sometimes you get games like that, and you just got to take the result.
Yeah. What about you, Ben? Was you expecting a bit more? It felt a little bit flat to me. I was expecting a bit, given the fact that Ruud's just come in. I was expecting a little bit of a bounce. And what did you make of it?
Yeah, I feel it was one of them where both teams went into it kind of thinking, right, we're just going to feel it out for the first 25 minutes, and it ended up being the first 70 odd minutes, kind of just barely throwing any punches. Obviously, Garnacho got quite a bit of criticism. I certainly saw that, which I understand, and I also don't understand, because his decision making has always been the one point about his game where you look at it and think that's the area that he needs to improve to really step on to that next level. And I think we just have to accept that for the time being. The game itself, the one positive we can probably take from it is that Chelsea are considered a top 4 contender, or how they have been so far this season. If that's the standard, we can quite comfortably get to that standard with a new manager, a new style, and be pushing for that. Are we 6 points off top 4 at the minute? I think
something like that. Yeah,
it's nothing, is it really, over the remainder of the season? So yeah, I think that's the one positive we can take from it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What about you, Matt? How did you see it?
Yeah, it wasn't the most entertaining game, I must admit. I think as a result, it's not the worst result ever. I kind of was hoping, obviously, after Bruno scored the penalty, we would have managed to hold on and see the game out. Obviously, that wasn't meant to be. Yeah, it's one of them. I think the decision making within the team as a whole is what's letting us down at the moment. Obviously, whether that be individual, whether it be Garnacho, obviously, like Ben says, getting quite a lot of stick for it at the moment. But I think collectively, I think the decision making, like there was a few times where I think when Ahmad came on as an example, Garnacho, he had a pass on, and Ahmad literally would have been in on goal, and he didn't pass it. He just ran and ended up losing the ball. So yeah, just little moments like that can make a difference. And I think at the moment the players just need to just get used to obviously making better decisions, and hopefully that will come under the new manager and things. Hopefully that within time that will happen. But I think people need to remember we have got quite a lot of young players in the team now. Obviously still got some new players that are still trying to bed themselves in as well that haven't played every game. So I'm just hoping over the next few games Van Nistelrooy can get us through, get us a couple of wins before Amorim comes in, and hopefully he can bring his style of play, and hopefully we'll start seeing more from the players that are I won't say much underperforming, but I think just get a bit more out of them because we all know we've got the quality in the squad. It's just getting that out of them now is the main challenge for Amorim when he comes in.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I agree with that. As I said, Garnacho has got quite a lot of stick after Sunday. His failure to be able to pass the ball seems to be a bit of an issue with him at times. Do you think that's becoming a little bit of a problem for Garnacho, Rashford? I know then it has a knock-on with Højlund. Højlund then doesn't get the service, doesn't score the goals. Is it becoming a problem that you take him out of the team? Because they seem very sort of tunnel vision, and he doesn't look for a pass, Garnacho, in times where the pass is very clearly on and he's shooting from awkward angles. Do you think that's an issue that Garnacho has got, or do you think it's just because he's a young lad and he'll get out of that?
I think, yeah, it can be a problem. I think you get there's certain players. I know this is Manchester United, and we've got a rich history of goal scorers that are some of the Premier League's greatest ever goal scorers. You know, you could put 5 in the greatest 10 and easy. So that's, you know, that's us. That's what our heritage. But I think there's certain players in that team you can give a bit of a pass to. Rasmus Højlund being one. He's quite young. He does look like he's engaging. He does look like he's coaching. And I hate to to echo what the managers have been saying. They just need time because they're young. Same with Xerxes. I think Xerxes first, still young. New league, new team, new style of football completely. He needs a bit of time. Garnacho's been here a little bit longer, so obviously he's more up to speed with the pace of the Premier League. He frustrates me because there's some games I'll look at him and I'll think, this is a fantastic footballer that should 100% starting over a player like Marcus Rashford. And then you'll look at him in another game, like a Chelsea game, for example, and you'll look at him and you'll think, that is why Marcus Rashford has to start over him, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's really frustrating. I think very quickly, I think the new system that the new manager, I think, will bring in would be better because we are creating them chances. We just literally need to bury them chances and maybe more centralise the chances for Højlund. I think he's not being unlocked enough, whereas our wingers are really being unlocked. They're getting enough, should definitely be scoring. So I think the new system, if he goes for the narrow system, I think would suit Højlund, and I think he could very much be that fast, young, mobile finisher that we really do need.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, I definitely agree with we should be giving Højlund a bit of a free pass. He just doesn't get the service, does he? I don't know if you noticed it, Ben, during Sunday's game. Garnacho's body language seemed to be a bit off to me. Like he was flailing his arms around a lot. I don't know. Is that he's tired? Is that he's frustrated? I'm not sure I'm not sure if you noticed it or what you make of that.
I think it's probably just feeling the pressure naturally. Obviously, the back off of losing a manager that's kind of put his trust in Garnacho. He's going to feel partly responsible for what's happened, partly responsible for the lack of goals, which is natural. He's a young lad. It's probably his first situation where he's been a first choice player and they've lost a manager. Ultimately, his decision making, it's either going to improve to a point where he fits into the team and is a very good player, or it's not going to improve from this point, and then he's ultimately not going to be a Manchester United player full time. Yeah. And that's kind of the point where I think Ronaldo went through maybe his second season. I think he had a ridiculous stat where he had like 12 shots a game or something like that. That feels like Garnacho. But then the following season, Ronaldo bagged 40 odd goals or whatever it was. So that we're just on that line, I think, with Garnacho, where it's going to go one way or the other. And I'm here for it, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember I was about to mention Ronaldo, actually. He reminds me a little bit of Ronaldo when Ronaldo joined. I remember Ronaldo was very sort of tricky, wasn't he? He looked like he wanted the headline, and obviously he got it in the end. But do you see Garnacho working out, Matt? Like, do you see I don't like to call it greedy, because if you take that away from him, you lose the magic moments, don't you? Do you see the decision making coming? And how long can you give these kids? Like, how, given the fact he is a starter, When do you take that away that he's just a lad?
I think ultimately you've just got to give him that time. Like I say, hopefully it will come with time. Like I say, he's only is he 20, Garnacho, 21, not too sure. I think you've got to at least give him time to improve on that. Like I say, nobody's perfect at that age, even if you're in the first team as a starter. Obviously, we all know he's got the talent, he's got the ability. We've seen it in moments in games where he's come up with goals or a run and he's created a chance. He has got it in him. I think it's just that decision making now that'll just take him to that next level, which he is more than capable of. And I'm just hoping that someone, whether it be the next manager, hopefully can get that out of him and just drill it into him that he's making the right decisions at the right moments. Because ultimately it'll help us to contribute to winning a lot more games than what we are or what we have been currently. So yeah, for me, just give him time. We all know he's got the ability. We've seen it in certain games. He just needs to kick on now and just build on it. But ultimately, that is kind of what's costing us a lot of the games. But it's not just him. I'm talking as a collective. But I think Garnacho, give him time. I think it will come.
Yeah, I mean, is that a coaching issue? I mean, it's been an issue now for, I don't know. It was definitely an issue last season. I mean, this comment here basically says about Rashford: 1 run, 1 shot per game. Happy coming off 60 minutes. Is Rashford the same? But is Rashford still the young lad? Do we still give him that? How do you see Rashford does? Will Rashford struggle in the new Amorim system of tracking back and the pressing? Will he struggle? How do you see it?
I don't think he'll have to track back in the new system. I think the new system, I mean, we can only speculate what we believe this new system's going to look like. And the only example we can give is the way we saw Sporting last night. It's going to be a long time before we get that level of fluency. But I can't see Marcus Rashford. I mean, if you looked at the attacking midfielders at Sporting last night, you could see that there was tracking back.
Yeah,
that isn't a Marcus Rashford, and I don't think that would suit him. But when you look at the characteristics of a centre forward needed in that Sporting team, fast, mobile, composed, Marcus Rashford actually does have them characteristics. And I think that if he can be coached, I think Amorim would absolutely love him in that position. And I think the one example I can give you, and it's going back to mentioning about the body language we received from Garnacho as well. I once read a story that if Paul Gascoigne would have come to United and not Newcastle, he wouldn't have become an alcoholic. He ended up going to a team that was in the nightlife capital of the UK, surrounded in a team full of drinkers. He was never, ever going to, do anything more than that in a team like that. Had he come to Manchester United, it'd have actually have come, been surrounded by players like Robson and players like that. And actually that would have had a better impact on him, in my opinion. I think the same thing's happening with Garnacho. We're seeing the poor body language from Bruno Fernandes, from Marcus Rashford. And that is, basically saying to young players like Garnacho, it's an acceptable form of behaviour.
rubbing off.
So I think for Rashford to work, needs to be coached out of him, that mardiness, that put your head down the minute it's not going right. If we can coach that out of him, which I'm not convinced we can, he'd be absolute asset to this team. If not, there's 2 or 3 players we've just mentioned that are quite controversial. I'd have no problem cashing in on if the price was right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, what's your take on Rashford, Ben? Do we go light on him because he's an academy lad and he's a Manchester boy? Do we go a bit light on him if he's? I mean, does he produce enough season in, season out for what we obviously want to be a title challenging team? Does he do enough?
I think he's probably a victim of what he's actually done. You think of them really good seasons that he's had, and we were talking about him like he was Mbappe for United. And I think that's part of the issue, is that we're expecting him to put up them numbers every year, which he just hasn't shown that as a level of consistency across any seasons. He has a good season, he has a bad season. But ultimately, I think now he is at that age. Like you said, we let Garnacho off because of his age. We let Rashford off when he was younger. But unfortunately, Rashford is now, he's 27, isn't he, I think, which you have to be providing goals, you have to be providing assists, but you also have to help the manager by fitting into that system. So if you think the new manager comes in and Rashford's kind of, he's not really working in a certain situation, or he's not suited to any of the positions, that's on him now. The manager's going to come in, and I'm hoping that he just comes in and he says, right, this is my system, we're going to play that. And I don't want none of this that we've had before with Ten Hag, where he changes his style after 2 games, or he realises that Bruno and Rashford are more transitional players, so he starts going a bit more direct. Just, I'm hoping that the manager doesn't do that, and he says, right, this is what we're doing. If you don't fit into it, that's tough. You can sit on the bench or you can leave. And like Daz says, I think ultimately if Rashford continues the way he has this season and last season, if we get a good offer for him in the summer, there's not going to be a lot of people kind of clinging on to him, really. I think that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I think I agree, to be fair. What about you, Matt? Does he do enough? Are we not easy on him, but do we? Well, one, do we expect too much from him because we know what he can deliver? And 2, do we let him off too much because he is a Manchester boy and because he's one of our own, as they say? Where do you stand on Rashford?
Yeah, I think when he was younger and obviously he was coming through into the first team, obviously them first 2 or 3 years, I think he was getting a lot of leeway, which in fairness is probably what Garnacho's getting currently at his age that he is now. I think you look at him now, he's 27. I think, like Ben says, you've got to start seeing him producing something now, whether it's contributing for assists, goals. It's just his general performance, like I say, his attitude, and that's ultimately having an impact on the younger players like the Garnachos and even to an extent Xerxes and Højlund to an extent, because they're still relatively young, which isn't great. I'm hoping it can be coached out of them. Even Rashford at the age he is, I'm just hoping that this manager can get something out of him. I think it's just a mindset issue with Rashford, I think, a lot of the time, to be honest. I don't think it's an ability thing, because we all know he can produce. I think it's just a mindset thing, and I'm just hoping that a manager can come in and say, look, sitting down, this is the way we're going to play, this is the role you're going to play in the team. And at the end of the day, I think now we need to stop being too soft on the players. I think under like Ten Hag, I think he was trying to adapt the system to suit certain players, which I think now that has to stop, because it clearly does not work. I think he needs to come in, have a set system, which I think he will. And it's either the players buy into it or they don't. And if they don't buy into it, see you later. And that's a reality of how it has to be now. Because if you're grovelling and try to suit certain players, it's just never going to work, because then the rest of the players in the team, it's just not going to happen for. So yeah, for me, Rashford, he has got the ability. I'm just hoping Amarin now can come in and get him in a role where we can see more from him ultimately, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with you, to be fair. Would you start him on Sunday against Leicester, Daz? Is he still a starter for Manchester United, Rashford? Would you start him? Would you start Garnacho over him, Ahmad over him? How would you line up against Leicester on Sunday? Would it be the same as the cup game? Will Ruud want to go full on attack? What would you do?
I think we're not in the privilege of rotating, not just before an international break. If you can, the chances is Marcus Rashford's not going to get picked for England, does he? I don't know.
No.
You know, but he's not going to get, not unless he pulls something out of the hat in the next 2 games, and you know, Tuchel says I want him to be part of this squad because he's seen the pass value. So I think Marcus Rashford will play. I think it will look very similar. Maybe the changes in midfield to what we've seen, you know, with Onana. I think the back 4 will look very similar to what we've seen, with potentially Martinez being that left-sided left back. Midfielder, maybe Eriksen put in there. Maybe, I don't know if Kobe Maino's back. Is he still injured?
Yeah, it's still out, yeah.
Okay, I can't remember when they were back, but I think the front line will look very similar: Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund. Yeah, I think he'll probably try and stay consistent with his lineup, with what we've seen. Like I say, maybe the odd change in midfield. He could opt to go for Xerxes over Højlund. It's not what I'd like to see, because I don't think, even with the last couple of games where they played quite well under Ruud, I'd much rather have a more risky approach and, you know, put Harry on that team, put somebody like Ahmed in that team and just say, go for it. I mean, there's enough quality in that team that if it isn't working at half time, you can then bring your Marcus Rashfords on. You can have shows. I think Ganacho's always better as a sub anyway for me. I think he's better coming on. But yeah.
What about you, Ben? Do you see it being just a very similar United lineup? Ben?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Ahmad, because I like Ahmad. I think he brings a level of security on the ball which Rashford and Garnacho just don't have. I think I like the balance of Casemiro and Agate in midfield. I think he's probably doing Agate a bit of justice because he's kind of actually showing what he can do in terms of covering ground. And I think it's also doing Casemiro justice because he doesn't have to run around like a lunatic. Yeah. He can actually get on the ball and do what he does. And then the back four, I think, that's pretty much set, providing there's no injuries between now and then. Keep Mazraoui on the ball because he's the best player we've had this season by a country mile. He's so good to watch. Like, he's one of them players where there's some players you watch, probably like a Garnacho, where you think one decision's brilliant, the next decision you're thinking, has he ever played football before? Because you're not entirely sure what he's trying to do. Whereas Mazraoui, every single decision he makes is just flawless. So I want to see him play as much as we can. The rest of the team just fit around that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been kind of beating a drum on TikTok that our squad is better than our league position is saying, Matt. Where would you put our squad in the league? Obviously, we're 13th, so that is where we are. But I mean, do you think the squad's better than what than the league says? Where would you put us?
I think if you look at the quality within the team, you think we should be good enough to be competing in that top four. I think the issue is it's not the lack of quality; it's the decision making, it's the mindset within the team, it's the consistency, which I think has been the main issue, and scoring goals. We create the chances, just don't score the goals. At the end of the day, if you're not going to score you're not going to get the goals. At the end of the day, you're going to find yourself 13th in a table, no matter how good your squad is. For me, I think we should be. To be honest, I still think we will finish top four. I do think we'll turn it around. I'm hoping we can actually see us kick on after the international break more so when the new manager comes in. But for me, we're definitely a top four in terms of the quality of the squad. But it all comes down to whether we can start getting us scoring the goals that we need to try and climb ourselves back up the table.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Give me your predictions for this one then. Leicester at home, Rude's last game. Daz, what are you saying? Prediction? Stay positive.
I'm probably going to go 3-0 again. I don't think it will run away with it as much as we did in the first Leicester game, simply because I'd expect the likes of Vardy to be part of that team this time, but Leicester will look a little bit stronger. I think they have to win games, obviously, in the Premier League because they get relegated if they don't. Whereas in a cup, it's a little bit different. You know, if they're out the cup, they're out the cup. You don't freeze up fixtures. So I think there will be a tougher opponent for us. And obviously, I think Rudy's going to play a similar team in both games, which means when we come to the Leicester game, they might be slightly more fatigued. So a bit of a slower game. But I'm going to go 3-0 again, just because I think we've proven we can score a lot of goals against them.
Okay, 2 clean sheets in a row from Daz. Matt, what are you saying? Are you giving us another clean sheet?
I'm not sure I can give 2 clean sheets in a row. Not that confident. No, for me, I think I'd probably go for a 3-1. I think we will win the game. Like Dad said, it probably will be a bit different to the cup game. I think Leicester rested quite a lot of their main players. That cup game, obviously Vardy wasn't involved, etc. So I don't think it'd be quite a walk in the park like it was in the cup game. But for me, 3-1. I just can't quite give us 2 clean sheets in a row. But I'll be proven wrong.
Go on, Ben. What are you saying? Is Rude going to sign off in a glorious fashion?
Good. Yeah, we'll go big. 5-0.
5-0. I love that. Yeah, I think I like Ben's one the best. So yeah, so that will be Rude done. So let's have a little look at Amorim. As Matt just said, we're struggling for goals. So Ben, how does he solve that? How does he get goals into this team? What does he change personnel? Will it just be that they kind of buy into what he wants to do? How do we get goals into this team?
I think it's quite a long discussion, really, but one of the issues we're talking about quite a lot is decision making in the final third. I think Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund are all showing that if you give them time on the ball or various options, they struggle to make the right decision. I think what Amorim will bring is kind of a system goal, which is something that you think of Man City, probably a couple of years ago, their bread and butter was get to the byline, cut it back, and someone put it in the net. That was just repeat and recycle. And it gets to the point where the players think, right, I'm in this position. All I have to do now is cut it back or pass it down the line. Or that's what he's hopefully going to bring. I think we got to a point under Erik ten Hag where we're fairly comfortable actually getting into the wide positions and getting alongside the box to Garnacho and Ahmed, whoever it might be. But then it was like, well, what's Højlund supposed to do at that point? Is he running in for a cross or is he coming short? And I think that's where we're getting cross wires, where in particular, them two players behind the striker in this system, if you watched it last night against City, as soon as they get on the ball, the striker's just off. He just runs. And ultimately, that probably suits quite a few of our players in terms of turn on the ball, play a ball through, or travel with the ball. And I think ultimately that's where we're going to get to, is the decision-making is kind of taken away from them, and the manager expects a certain level of system to come in and kind of create the goals. And then hopefully Højlund can get a few more chances.
Do you think, Matt, Højlund can be our Gyökeres? Do you think he has the characteristics? Because he's fast, and I think he's shown in the last few weeks, he looks a bit more powerful with holding the ball up. Do you think he can do that role that Gyökeres does for Amorim Sporting?
Yeah, like I say, like Ben said, I think the game last night was proof of also, I think, how he will approach it. I think even at United, I think the front three, obviously where you're playing Rashford, Garnacho, Højlund or Ahmad, etc., we have got the pace in the attack. I think the directness of his style of play will benefit us a lot more. I think in the past, even under Ten Hag and even under previous managers, you've noticed it's been a lot of side-to-side football, taking too long, taking too many touches on the ball, and it takes about half an hour to get the ball past the halfway line at times, and then the chance is gone. I think, so for me, I think the directness will be crucial in us moving forward, and hopefully it'll get more out of Højlund because he is quite a direct player anyway, as is Garnacho, as is Ahmad. He likes to run at the fullbacks. And hopefully it'll benefit Rashford because, again, he's got the pace about him. We just need to get more directness in the team to start causing the opposition more problems. I think in the past we've been a bit too maybe cautious is maybe not the right word, but really, really rigid and too slow at building the attacks, and it's just too easy to defend against. So I'm hoping it will benefit more so the attacking players if they go a bit more direct, definitely.
Yeah, I think you're right. Daz, do you think wing backs will aid us in this feeding the striker? So obviously you'll I don't know, just throwing names at you. You'll obviously have Garnacho and Rashford slightly more central, and then maybe a Mazraoui Dalot coming down the flanks. Are they more likely to be feeding the striker as opposed to Garner that may be looking for the glory himself? Will that help us playing the wing back role, do you think?
Fully fit. I've got every fully fit team. I've got every confidence that Luke Shaw can play the system that he wants him to play. I mean, it wasn't beginning of last year when he was forced to play centre back that we realised actually Luke Shaw can defend. So I think, like last night, Man City forced their wing backs a little bit deeper than maybe he would have liked, and they cope really well. But going forward in that transition, they're really high up, and they're picking them balls up quite early. And I think Luke Shaw would absolutely love that sort of football. Dalot, I'm not convinced would be a permanent. I think he'd do good. I don't think he'd be a permanent solution. So that being said, I think his priority has got to be, I mean, he said it in his interview, what he does at Sporting won't necessarily work at Manchester United because he might not have the players and they might not have the characteristics to play that. So don't expect sporting football at Man United because it's not necessarily transferable, which is absolutely true. So maybe he comes in and he then sits and says to Ineos, I can't play this system, but if you bring me this right back in, this left back in, 100% we can play this system. So I think Luke Shaw can 100% play this system. I don't think anyone else can. I don't think Mazraoui can to an extent. I don't think Mazraoui is as good going forward as you've seen. I think he's good. I think he's a progressive player, Mazraoui, but I just don't think he's like a Luke Shaw and a Delo, and I think he's going to need to be like that. So I think he could struggle in this system, but ultimately we've not got enough wing backs, which could be the reason why his system initially fails. But yeah. I mean, like the guys down there said, I think the direct style would suit, a massive number of players in this team. But we do need them wing backs to be fit. If not, we do need to go to the market at Christmas.
Do you think that's the position that he needs to bring in first, Ben? I mean, he's got a big lad up top at Sporting. I wouldn't mind up top at United, to be honest. He knows where the goal is, doesn't he? 54 goals in 2024. That is filthy. Do you see him following him to Old Trafford, or do you think there's other areas of the pitch that he'll look at first?
I think when you were saying about before, where do we rank our squad in the league? I think, I could argue that our squad is top 4, but could I argue that our goal scoring is top 4? Probably not. You look at the teams that are up there. City have obviously got that robot up front. Liverpool have got Mo Salah. Chelsea now, Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer. Tottenham even have got Solanke. Aston Villa have got Watkins. We're relying on Højlund to kind of do something that he's never done before. So I think if we should have maybe done it with Harry Kane a couple of years ago and just gone and said, right, this is our man for the next 3 years. Whether we win something or not, he's going to score us 25 goals a season. And I think that's such a big part of just being part of the competitions and challenging near the top of the league. You need someone to score up goals, because ultimately this Liverpool team that everyone's lauding is brilliant. They're playing very good, but if you take Mo Salah out of that team, they're not in the position that they are in, and I think that just kind of reflects back onto us, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the glaring thing that we're missing, isn't it? Someone to put the ball in the back of the net. I don't know if you've seen it, Matt. Did you see the press conference that he gave the other day? I know Ben touched on it on TikTok. The British journalist trying to get him to talk in English. Did you see that? Yeah. What did you make of that and how he handled that? I was quite impressed with how he handled it.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
It was a bit bizarre, but I think it was the same. I seen the same reporter was doing the same thing. I think when Ten Hag, before he took over, I think he was like hassling him as well while he was walking. It's like it is a bit weird, and God knows what he must be thinking. He must think God, the British press are weirdos. But in fairness, no, he did handle it really well. I did watch the clip of it. I love how he just laughed it off and obviously made a joke out of it almost. But at the end of the day, he's still Sporting manager until was it Monday? He officially starts as United manager. Until then, he doesn't have to answer anything related to United at all, because his focus is still on Sporting. And the fact that he's trying to make him speak in English when he's still in Portugal is bizarre. But he handled it really well, though. I must admit, it's that's encouraging, because he's gonna have to get used to that when he comes over here.
What did you make of it, Ben? Like I said, I saw your TikTok about it. What did you make of it? What do you make of him as a character? Hold on, Daz. Ben first, and I'll come to you. Hold on, Daz. Ben first.
Yeah, I think the actual question and the approach to the interview was just stupid. It was Gary Cotterill, wasn't it? It was, he's got a reputation for that type of stuff. The way Amarin comes across, it's very classy. I think where he wasn't. I think a Jose Mourinho in that position would have probably shot down the interviewer and said, "No, we're not doing this." But he was very classy about it, but in a way where he's still in control of the situation. He knows what he's going to say. And again, he just looks so comfortable in that situation. But he's going to have to be comfortable. We've seen with Erik Ten Hag where that was one of the main character flaws we saw straight away with Ten Hag, was that he wasn't a very good speaker. And that can help you in a way to just connect to the fans, that even if it's an extra 5% or even the players, you think of how Erik Ten Hag talks to the press. That's how he is eventually going to talk to his players in the changing rooms. Whereas Amorim, I can imagine the charisma, kind of the likes of a Rashford actually perking up a bit to that, or a Bruno, obviously Portuguese link is going to perk up to it a bit. So I think that's a different element aside of all of the tactics and stuff like that I'm quite intrigued to see.
Yeah, I've been quite impressed with him listening to his press conferences since it's all come out. What have you made of him, Daz, as a person, not football-wise, how he seems to handle himself?
I really like him. Naturally, like we probably all have, I've been looking at every interview that he's given, trying, most of it's in Portuguese, but trying to work his body language out. He's always smiling, and that's easy to do. I mean, on the other scale, I mean, it's easy to do them things when you are achieving expectations with your club. It's a completely different ball game at Man United. The media won't be as nice with you. The questions won't be as nice if the results are not coming your way. And obviously, it is a big question mark over him. Does he still have that personality and them characteristics that we've all named and we do like about him? If we've just been beat 7-0 by Liverpool and you're on the back of it, a bit like Pep. I mean, you look at Pep now, after losing 3 games, he still sits in a media room and he might not like the questioning that the British media give him, but he still controls that room. He still is in full control. And I think that's what I do like about Amorim. That even the other night, like I say, when he was asked to speak in English and he's been asked about the Manchester United job, he's maintained that he's in Portugal managing a Portuguese team, and he's going to be Portuguese because he's respecting their fans. But actually, he's not Man United manager, he's Sporting Lisbon's manager, and actually, he's not going to talk about the Man United job. The only thing he said is that it's not necessarily transferable. I like his honesty. I mean, I watched his post-game last night and he came out and he mentioned about how he felt that he was lucky it was a one-off. He's not going to beat Man City with Sporting Lisbon 4-1 again. I love his honesty. Pep's a better manager. We got lucky. We ran away with the game, the feeling, I think the mood of the night being his last home game. I think everything was just perfect for them. And he came out after and he was honest and he said, it's a one-off. Pep's still a better manager. No, he said it in his own wording, but that was the message that he gave. And I really like that about him. There's no delusion about him. Even though he won 4-1 and he had the right to do what we've all done and just smile and troll a little bit, he was very accountable and that's the one thing that we never saw from Erik Ten Hag. Every time we lost the game, but we've won the Carabao Cup, but we've won the FA Cup, we've won more trophies than anyone but Man City. And all of that is true. And I think to a level that was a success that he had, but it wasn't good enough. It's not a foundation to say we're a good club because if anything, it's a way to say, yeah, it's great. We've won these trophies. And I remember I actually watched an interview about him. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Last season, he gave an interview and he lost. Somebody said to him he had a good run in Europe, but he was unlucky. And he came out and he said, but we didn't win it. It wasn't, it's not acceptable that we want to give the fans trophies. He could have easily have said, we got here, we've exceeded every expectation, but he didn't. It's not good enough. We want to win trophies. That's ultimately the goal, isn't it? Winning trophies and competing at the highest level. And everything that I like about him is all of that. Everything that he comes out and you can just see that he understands the memo. And because he's got an opposite personality to Erik Ten Hag, it just might work, Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, do you think that'll be what sets him aside, Matt? As Ben says, Ten Hag was a little bit more closed off, wasn't he? He always seemed a little bit awkward to me in interviews. whereas Amarin just feels a little bit more natural to me. And even seeing him on the touchline pacing up and down, he looks a little bit more animated. And I like that as a fan. I love seeing my manager be a little bit like Rude the other day when we scored against Chelsea, giving it the old Mourinho up the touchline, and I loved all that. What do you think?
Yeah, I just think he brings a lot more than Ten Hag. Obviously, it's not necessarily just about your management ability. Sometimes I think it's just about you as a person and how you come across to whether it's the fans, the players, whoever, or even people above them in the club. I think that will hopefully, like Dad said, or hopefully, and also what Ben touched on as well, I think his charisma towards the players might help a bit more. Whether it was like a language thing with Ten Hag, I'm not too sure. Obviously, he's English. We knew what he was saying, but the way he came across, you sat watching it on TV and you're thinking, God, this is a tough watch. Sometimes you couldn't quite make out what he was trying to say. It didn't make sense a lot of the time, even though he probably knew what he meant. But yeah, for me, I think you should just look at him now. He comes across really, really well. Obviously, whether that's because he's being successful where he's currently, obviously when the pressure of United comes around, whether that be the same. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping he'd be like that at a Pep, where he controls press conferences. He's in control of the dressing room at all times. We just need someone there as a steady fixture, and even the coaching staff. I love the fact that he's bringing them along with him as well. He knows exactly what he wants, and I'm sure he'll have it all planned out. I'm sure ready for Monday.
Yeah, let's hope so. How do you what do you see as an expectation, Ben? Of now we are, I don't even know where we are in the league, 12th, 13th, or whatever. Is the last bit of this season, is it a little bit of a free hit for him, or do we still say, you need to get top 6, you need this, or do we kind of give him this as a you have a look and then we'll start next season sort of thing? What do you think?
It's a difficult one because, like I said, I still think this squad is good enough to get into the top 4, and being 6 points off, there's no reason after 8 or 9 games in, we should not be turning around as Manchester United and saying, it's fine, you can finish 10th. That shouldn't be a thing. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a challenge. But what I do want to see is by the end of the season, we're in a position going into that transfer market, and he and Ineos know exactly what we need, because we're all kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen, and we're thinking, right, he needs a left back or a left wing back, or he needs a striker. Ultimately, we don't know until he comes in.
No.
He might put Anthony at left back, and he might be the best left wing back we've ever seen. You just don't know. But by the end of the season, we need to know, right, what's the positions? We need to go and recruit so that next year you're in a position to challenge for trophies or be consistent in that top 4.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, for me, I'd like to just know what our play style is by the time the season ends. I still don't know what it was under Ten Hag, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
no, that's it.
Sorry, Daz, carry on if you want to touch on that.
I think a big thing is, as a fan base, we've got a bit like Ben just said, we need to create a blueprint, but we need to see the direction of that blueprint by the end of the season. I think because Ten Hag came in, I mean, going back to why he potentially went wrong and why us as a fan base got it wrong, is we was very blinded by the fact that he came third in his first season, and obviously he's won trophies. Actually, can we honestly say, as good as that first season was, could we really see the direction that the club wanted to go in? No. Second season, he got a pass because of the injuries, and everyone said it was the second season. Again, we've then come into the third season, and ultimately, after all that money that he's had spent, the players that obviously have worked with him, know his system, know his philosophy, I can't honestly say, even now, I know the sort of football he wanted to try and play. I'm happy for Ruben Amorim to come in and say, I'm going to play the 3-4-3. I'm going to play wingers like this. I'm going to play a mobile striker and fail, so long as we can see that that's what he was trying to do, but then have the accountability as a manager to say, we've now got to go back to the 4-2-3-1 because the system didn't work. But at least we can see the progression, we can see the trial and error. But like I say, with Ten Hag, we got blinded. A lot of fans got blinded by how good his first season was. and they sort of ignored the fact that there was no progress in a style of play. So I think Ben's right. I think by the end of the season, I would like him to get Manchester United back to where I honestly think we're a top 4 club even now. And ultimately, the manager's been sacked, not because we've downgraded as a football club. It's been sacked because it's underachieved. That is it. We have underachieved. I know we're one off now, but we've conceded the same amount of goals as Arsenal, or -1. But we've created just as many chances as Liverpool that are flying at the top of the table. So that's told you that defensively we're not as bad as we look. Going forward, we're creating just as many chances. We're not finishing them. And I actually said to you, didn't I, Andy? I think that a manager's job, first and foremost, is to inspire and motivate his team. And I just felt that maybe Ten Hag's character and his personality, he failed to do that. And that was the reason I wanted him to go. I was happy to see progress. I was happy to wait, because I know it takes 3, 4, 5 years to really get something out of this. But it was a character thing for me. Amorim's got that character. Like Ben said, we just need to see progress. Even if it's slow, we just need to see something as a fan base.
Yeah, I think you're right. We need something to just know where we're going in the future, don't we? Really, and that kind of leads me on nicely. I'll start with you on this one, Matt. Do you think we're in a worse place now than we were when Ten Hag came in? We're in a bit of a hole, wasn't we, when Ten Hag came in? Do you think we're in a worse hole now, or do you think he's mended us a little bit?
I won't say we're in a better position. Probably is the best way to describe it. I won't say we're in a worse position. If you look at the squad that we've probably got one of the strongest squads in the league. Ultimately, if you look at players position by position, we've not got a terrible squad. It's just now about someone coming in and getting the best out of them as a squad. Obviously, he had the injuries. Hopefully, that touch wood, that won't happen this season as much. But yeah, I think it's just getting the best out of them is basically the ultimate goal. But I think we just need to see a style of play now. I think we just need to see an approach. The fans just need to know exactly what the team are trying to achieve game by game. I think that's the only way he's going to succeed this season in particular. I think he needs to come in and implement a certain style of play with the players he's got. And I think then he'll know come the end of the season who he wants, who he doesn't want, and who's going to mould into that system moving forward. But yeah, for me, it's an interesting one. I'm just hoping he can come in and do something. But I think we just need to be aiming for top 4 this season. I think he just needs to come in and hopefully hits the ground running and the players click into gear as quick as possible. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Ben? Do you think we're in a worse spot now than we was when Ten Hag took over?
As a club, no, because I think Ineos have done some positive things. I think some of the stuff's been a bit questionable, but ultimately they're better than what we had under the Glazers. And then squad-wise, I think a lot more of these players transfer into this system than what we probably think. Whereas before we had the likes of Fred and McTominay, which, with the best will in the world, Eric Ten Hag would have never signed Scott McTominay for his team. And I don't think Pep Guardiola would sign Scott McTominay for Man City. So you look at players like that where we're saying there's a couple of areas we're looking at now when we're thinking they don't quite fit. But you've got the basis of a very good team. And also at decent ages, you look at Martinez, you look at De Ligt, you look at Yoro, you look at Mazraoui, you look at Delors. They're all Agate. They're all at a good age where they can be moulded into this system, and they're still only going to be 26, 27. Whereas before, I felt like we were caught in between quite a lot of systems, quite a lot of Mourinho players, quite a lot of Van Gaal players, and it was just a mess. So, yeah, I think we're in a better position.
Yeah, you can definitely see that they're building towards the future, can't you? Daz, what do you think? Are we in a worse spot, a better spot? What do you think?
I'll answer it by asking a few questions, and the answers to the questions will sort of answer your question. 2 years ago, was we a club that could win trophies? The answer to that is no, because we haven't won trophies for 6 years. Are we a club that can win trophies now? Yeah, because we've just won 2 out of 2. Are we a club that are making better signings in the transfer window? 100%. Over the last 2 years, have we removed a lot of dead wood from the locker room? 100%. Have we lowered our wage bill? Yes. Is the backroom structure of the football club been taken about 2 years ago? It was the manager, Richard Arnold, the Glazers. That was literally it. I know you had like these Murtock and all these guys that knew nothing about anything that called themselves technical directors, but there wasn't. Whereas now, you look at the structure of that club from even the ownership. I mean, you've got Jim Radcliffe, then there's 2 people under him before you even get to Manchester United. And then obviously you've got Omar Barada. He was one of the 3 key people that have brought Man City to the team that they're in. We've got people like Wilcox, Ashworth, people are proven in their field in the job that we've given them. They're football people. They're not investment bankers. So I think from the structure to the stuff that we've implemented, we are better. Are we in a worse position as a football club? Yeah, it's easy to say, yeah, because we're sat in 13th place, whereas 2 years ago, I think we were sat in 7th or something. But I do think 2 years ago, I think a foundation had to be built by Ten Hag to be successful. Maybe you would argue maybe he deserves time to follow that through. But there is now, like Ben said, there's players in that team, and there is a really good foundation there. I mean, Matt said it, that we've got a really good team, player for player. All we now need is the man that can bring it together. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say Ruben Amorim is the man that's going to come in and we're going to win the league in 12 months. I'm not saying that he is the man. What I'm saying is we've done a due diligence and he looks like the man. He sounds like the man. Other teams wanted him, so other teams have obviously done their due diligence. Obviously, that doesn't mean that he's going to be great at Manchester United because, you know, if someone like Jose Mourinho can fail at Man United, anyone can fail, you know. But it is all positive.
Did we think this before Ten Hag came in, though? I remember when Ragnick left and Ten Hag was this glowing beacon at Ajax, and we thought, oh, he looks very nice. He's going to come in and turn it all around. How is it different now? Do you think, Matt, that Amorim's coming in? How is it different? Because Ten Hag was doing very similar at Ajax, was doing well, had a style apparently. He left it in Ajax apparently, but he had a style at one point. How's it different?
I just feel like the people that have actually made this decision ultimately. I think obviously when Ten Hag came in, and obviously the previous managers before him, it was made by Ed Woodward, the Glazers. Like, you know what I mean? I think if you look at the track record, every manager they brought in hasn't been successful. The difference this time is obviously they've come in, have come in and made a decision and gone, Ten Hag needs to go, which in fairness we all knew was a matter of time, was inevitable. But I like the fact that it's their choice now, it's their manager, this is who they wanted to bring in. And obviously, to be honest, I don't think it's been a quick decision. I think this has been in the pipeline for quite a while, I'd imagine. I can't see it being a quick thing where they've gone, boom, that's who we want. I think they have known for a while, personally. Maybe even the end of last season. I'd probably go back as far as say they probably identified him. So I'm encouraged by the people that have made the decision. They are footballing people. They know who they want. And obviously they've been decisive. There's not been like 10 rounds of talks with a manager. They've gone who they want, flown out, got the man. And obviously starts Monday and fingers crossed he can be the one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was only playing devil's advocate there, but I agree. I love the fact that we've gone to another club and we're like, I want that one. Here's the money. We'll have him. I love all that. Instead of us getting Southgate in and it'll be in, maybe not. But I think we'll leave it there, lads. I mean, so we're having a couple of clean sheets, lots of goals in the next couple of games. Love all that. But yeah, tell us where we can find you, Daz. Where can we find your controversy?
TikTok. I'm here midweek with you guys, but yeah, mainly TikTok midweek. Yeah, they're the 2 places.
Lovely. What about you, Ben? Where can we find you? Where can people home in on you?
Yeah, same again over on TikTok. Daily stuff over there, trying to keep on top of the news. Yeah.
I saw one of your videos the other day. What was it 1.3 million? Is that on?
That
Wow.
That just blew up for no reason. I don't even think it was a good video, and it just went.
That was amazing. That was proper.
We'll take it.
What about you, Matt? Where can we find you?
Mainly on the All for United page at the moment. But yeah, if you want to follow me personally, it's just a little handle to the bottom left of me. But yeah, I say every show that I'm on, everyone follow All for United as well. I think we're
definitely
now, so let's keep it growing.
Happy days. Yeah, follow us Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't think we've gone to Facebook yet, but yeah, cheers guys. It's been a good show, and cheers for everyone that's watched. As I say, clean sheets, goals. That's what we get in these next couple of games. Barry will be back on when have we got Leicester Sunday? Yeah, Barry will be back on Sunday night with a look at the Leicester game, and then it's the international break, and I'll throw some out next week. Me and Daz will have a chat, and it'll be great whatever it is. So yeah, cheers guys, and see you next time. Cheers.